your blood. By your blood, I'm covered by your blood. Your precious blood, your holy blood. Religious liberty and the dawn of religio-cultural separatism. Religious liberty and the dawn of religio-cultural separatism. The ideological pasture of the modern world produces such discontent for some people of the Abrahamic faith tradition that life becomes unbearable for them. They will not share in a culture that undermines their religious fervency and their sense of morality. For survival, these humans or these religious groups find it necessary to withdraw from mainstream society with the goal of forging an appropriate community fitting their religious beliefs and values. They are your modern religious separatists. Good day, my fellow Christian brothers and sisters. We are discussing religious separatism in the 21st century world. In the 1600s, we have had separatism in Europe, for example, where there were some of the religious persuasion, Christians, if you will, who wanted to remove themselves from the society in which they live because they found it impossible to live, to share in the values of the people in the community in which they lived. Or in some cases, the church had strayed in values and teachings from biblical principles. So they wanted to purify the church, from which we get the word Puritans and the Puritan groups, which means purely or solely scriptures, not a tradition or some traditions developed by leaders in the church. They wanted a Christianity that was purely according to the traditions handed down from Christ. They wanted biblical Christianity or biblical Christian faith, that which came from Jesus handed down to his disciples. But now we're living in a time when we have a new surge of religious separatism, where there are Christians, there are religious people who are finding it more difficult, extremely difficult to live in the present society because it is humanistic. Some might even say the liberal left, the liberal far left, and the Christian or religious conservatives find themselves with values that are irreconcilable. It is antithetical reality. One is the antithesis of the other. Irreconcilable conflict. So we have discussed that we are looking at three parts to the modern separatist movement. The clash in values. Two value systems cannot agree, and it's being played out in the courts, where the court decide on a law that benefits a given group, then the other group says, we can't live with those. In the United States of America, for example, we have the conservatives. If you go far right and then far left, you find a great divide. And the two find it difficult to live in the same space. Conflicting values. The problem for the religious conservatives is that when you have a liberal government, a liberal court, liberal leaders who are bending law and society to fit liberalism or liberal values, morals, concepts, these conservatives find it difficult or impossible to live in that society. So it is the clashing values of two groups. Second, we look at the background. What led to this? What led to this is that you have a society, for example, the United States of America, Western civilization, that was greatly Christian. Christianity that is based on the Holy Bible. The Enlightenment movement sought for a reality, a society, a universe, an existence vacant of Judeo-Christian beliefs and values. They wanted a divorce between European society or Western society and biblical teachings. It was a long time coming, but they gained great traction in the 20th century. Now we're in the first 25 years of the 21st century. We find that not only does the Enlightenment conception of human existence gaining traction in the world, but it becomes the dominant thought for humans. In other words, it becomes the preferred, the liked, and the natural view of the universe, which leaves little place for Bible believers, those who hold to biblical beliefs and values in the Western world, or in the part of the world where Enlightenment thought had become dominant. So that is the background. The background is the erosion of biblical Christian thinking, biblical Christian beliefs, biblical Christian values. This now becomes the foundation for the new ideology. The new ideology holds that the Holy Bible is unproven and hence not true, or it's without credibility. The new ideology contends or holds that the Holy Bible is unproven and hence not true or without credibility. This produced the grounds for a new spirituality. They don't call it new spirituality, but it's still spirituality. It's spirituality because it guides the consciousness of human beings. It provides a value system. The value and belief system is the spiritual ground. So the new spirituality is a non-biblical view of existence. The new spirituality is a non-biblical view of existence, or a syncretistic or subjective truism, where each person gets to decide their own truth. As long as it is not biblical, because biblical we have absolute God and His laws and His teaching. If we believe in God, then we have to subject ourselves to His teaching. They did not want that. They no longer wanted objective and stable truths. They wanted subjective and moving truth. So we investigate and we decide for ourselves. New spirituality, a non-biblical view of existence, which provide a new foundation and agenda for politics. And this new foundation and agenda for politics create the law, new laws and regulations, and amending of constitution to fit the liberal views or the liberal conception of existence. In the case of the United States of America, amending the constitution to fit liberal views and conceptions of existence. In the end, this produced a new culture, the formation of a non-Abrahamic way of life, meaning a way of existence, a way of life that not only undermines what the Bible says about the human existence and the way humans should live, but live in a way that does not consider in the least what the Bible says about the way humans should live, the way humans should act. This is therefore the foundation for the 21st century religio-cultural separatism, meaning these Abrahamic faith people who hold to the Holy Scriptures teaching of God find it impossible to live in the Western world because they're clashing in values with the liberals. And here we come to the third. So the first is we discuss the clash. Then we discuss the background and reason for the clash, which is they build society on a non-Abrahamic foundation. They remove the Abrahamic foundation to society, which is they remove a biblical foundation to modern people thinking, to their behaving, to the way of life, to their civilization. When this is a reality for those who hold to biblical beliefs, biblical values, when that is a reality, they find it impossible to live in that society, hence religio-cultural separatism. Because of their religious values, their religious beliefs, because of their religious beliefs and values, they find it impossible to live in the modern Western society. The non-Abrahamic society, with its laws and regulations, at conflict with biblical beliefs and values, or not even give the Christians or the conservatives the freedom or the right to practice their religion, but force upon them the new values. When this is the case, the Abrahamic people of the Abrahamic faith, or the conservative Bible believers, conclude a separation from mainstream society, a separation from mainstream culture is the only course of action. For these Christians, like the Puritan of the 1600s, separation is the only course of action. Hence, they withdraw from mainstream society with the goal of creating their own, as we see with the Amish people, as we see with some other separatist groups. In the 1600s, the Puritans, they went to Netherlands because they wanted religious liberty from England. In the 1620s, the Pilgrims arrived, and then in the 1630s, the Puritans came. You have to understand how it was first working. First, the Puritans, let us purify the church. Let us seek for pure biblical teachings. When that was not possible, they said, okay, then we must separate. And they tried to separate. And when they were persecuted, reprimanded, they said that separatism, or to separate, was not possible where we are. That is to have an adjacent society. So we must go to a new place, find a new place, away from this country, away from this city. So the next step was to travel, to become immigrants, hence pilgrims, travelers, looking for a place where they could forge a godly or God-fearing, decent, biblical Christian society. That's what they sought for. And some today are thinking of the same thing. Religio-cultural separatism, to separate from this modern society that restrained or which forbid their Christian way of life. They want to preserve their beliefs, values, morals. These Christians seek a new land that will afford them or allow them uninhibited religious freedom and piety. They want to be free to speak God's words and to live what God's words said. Hence, the 21st century religio-cultural separatists. Separatism is not only societal, meaning to separate from the larger society or wider culture, but is also family members who don't share your beliefs. It's friends, separation from friends. Some people an institution. It is denomination. We have in the United Methodist Church that they're splitting in two, or they receive the right or the permission to split away from the mainstream group or the larger group or the governing group because of the issue of homosexual marriage and families and gender and so on and so forth. So the new value system, the liberal value system is causing a rift between family members, between denominational branches, between friends. And that is biblical, because Jesus said, I did not come to give peace, as in unity with groups, but separation. I come with a sword, he said. I will put a daughter against her mother. I will put a son against a father, daughter-in-law against mother-in-law, siblings against each other, is Jesus is saying. Family members against each other. Jesus said one's enemy will be members of their own family, their own household. So separatism, as we have it in the 1600s, who came to America, the Pilgrims and the Puritans, or in our modern day, or with the Amish people and groups like that, that is not new. It's from biblical days. In fact, when Abraham was called out, that was separatism. When the Israelites were called out of Egypt, that's separatism. When they were given a land by themselves, that's separatism. When Jesus called for you to leave behind parents and loved ones and follow him, do not go back and say goodbye to your friends and family. Come. Paul said, come out from among them, be ye separate. What fellowship has light and darkness? Christ, Baal, believer, unbeliever, righteousness, unrighteousness, and indicative here is none. So separatism is playing out in our society right now, and we will continue to discuss and look at the need for religio-cultural separatism, to state that it is a necessity for achieving and maintaining holiness, as the Bible says, because holiness is to be consecrated, to be separated, to be set apart for the glory of God, for the service of God. Religio-cultural separatism in the modern world. So until then, my fellow Christian brothers and sisters, Shalom.